Morning, everybody, depending on what part of the world you're in. Not much Garuda Ghost. This is just the beginning of our live stream here. Trying to figure out what kind of system I need to work here to hear things best, but I think I've got it basically worked out. So this is going to be a live stream with Sunrise Hoodie and Reverend20piece. I haven't hosted one of these in the past, so we'll see if everything goes smoothly or not. Let's see, I see where Reverend20piece is wanting to join here. I think I added him. I said good morning to start off with, but I guess in Holland it's well past that now. Hey Rev, do you I think I added you to the stream, but I don't know if there's anything I need to do on my end beyond that or not. Okay. Yeah, one thing I should have mentioned is I use sort of an older router, and sometimes it works perfectly fine, but sometimes it'll want to cut off for a few seconds and then reconnect. So it's possible I may have to reboot my router at some point. But I don't. It's unlikely that it'll do that. It's just a possibility. Yeah, it's rained for the past several days where I'm at. We've had some storms today. It's supposed to kind of warm up, but not really storm. The humidity is supposed to kind of go down today, but we've been having kind of a typical June to some extent where it'll get hot for a few days, like summertime, and then it'll be sort of like late spring again, and it kind of alternate back and forth. I'm not a huge fan of the hot and humid weather anyway, so. So you guys in Holland and the Netherlands, up there in Northern Europe, are you guys having a lot of demonstrations as a result of what's happened here in the United States, racially and whatnot, or is that kind of not really going on in your area? There he is.
All right. I was having some technical problems.
There he is.
Hold on a second. Let me mute this TV. But yeah, good morning, Dan. Well, for me at least.
Yeah, morning's just ended over here. Same difference.
Yeah, right now. I see Garuda Ghost is in here. Good to see you, Garuda. Hell yeah. And Yorn. Cracking me a monster. So get all fired up here for the stream.
Yeah, I'm drinking some coffee, so we'll see how that goes, one way or the other.
But yeah, my issue was I'll just put it out. I mean, if it might help somebody out in the stream later on, but the reason I was having trouble connecting was I was trying to use my my service provider internet for my phone, and it kept saying that there was some issue with the Wi-Fi or something like that. So I ended up just hooking it up to my Wi-Fi here. And I guess the signal wasn't strong enough or something. So got it fixed.
Well, as long as it works now, that's good.
Yeah.
So I guess in the town that's closest to me, there's supposed to be like a demonstration today with the whole BLM stuff. Do you have a whole lot of that kind of stuff going on or in your area, or are people kind of just indifferent to it all?
Surprisingly, there was a demonstration here because I'm in Northwest Arkansas. It's kind of a growing area. It's the home of Walmart, and Bentonville, which is not too far away from where I live, they had a demonstration there on this past Monday, and the cops were there, and the crowd wouldn't disperse, so they had to employ tear gas.
Oh, geez, criminy.
Yeah, but I was surprised because this area is a pretty conservative area overall.
Yeah, so is my area.
Yeah.
But I think, there are enough ethnic minorities in town and the different towns and stuff, like not the real small towns, but kind of the medium-sized towns. I think there's enough of a population there that they have enough people showing up. And I've heard, of course, there's rumors that people are coming in from outside too and trying to make things more difficult. Yeah,
I've heard those same rumors, and could be some truth to it. I haven't dug into it that far to really investigate, but somebody with money could easily do it. If people are willing to do that, for money to get paid.
Yep.
Especially in these times, the fucking COVID shutdown and people out of work and record unemployment. It's fucking crazy, man.
Yeah, I think these things are actually a little bit connected because I think people are so fed up with the whole COVID thing to some extent, like just frustrated of having to stay home for so long. And then something like this happens like back to back. Then people are really in a pissy mood because they just weathered the storm of all this. And now they're not, now this kind of event like in Minnesota happens. And then it's like, you pretty much get people just really mad. But
yeah, well, you have that. And I was thinking of this the other day. We don't have the added distraction of sports either. When people
right, bread and circuses.
Yeah, exactly.
Bread and circuses for the masses. When you don't have that, people are like, "Oh no, we don't have any entertainment. Let's go out and vent our frustration." That's a little bit of it. Like race is obviously the biggest issue with it, but some of these other factors I think have made it even worse. I don't know if Hoodie's having a little bit of a problem getting connected here.
Yeah, he may be experiencing the same thing I was. Like I said,
All right, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, how's it going? Good morning or good afternoon for you.
I'm good. I'm just hanging out. You know, I'm just a fly on the wall here. I wasn't sure. I mean, I've never used this before, so I didn't know if I was, you know, out of the loop here. But I'm good. I'm good, guys. Yeah, I just got off the phone. I was talking to Thailand Dan. Now I'm talking to Ohio Dan. So
You know, I wondered if you
having
ever followed
some
up with
good
him.
chats today. I see. Yeah, so, so I feel like I felt bad. I had talked to him about a year and a half ago, and yeah, people loved him and whatnot. And then I talked to him a few times, and I mean, it was my own fault. I got carried away in work and whatnot, and I didn't follow up with him. And I was like, you know what, I got to take this time right now to see how he's doing. So he's a firecracker as normal. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that stream fairly well, where he talked about how he'd never heard of MGTOW and stuff like that, but all the concepts kind of made sense to him. I can hear you, yeah. Can you hear us? Evidently not.
Oh, okay. Yeah, technology, right?
Yeah, this does seem to be a pretty convenient service to use because you don't really need to set up an account or whatever. It just sends it to your email and whatnot. So it was easier to use than what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, well, I thought I was gonna, yeah, like as you did, you saw. I was playing around with it this morning. I thought I was gonna have to download a program, but it doesn't look like it's that way. So, but it is convenient.
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe too convenient.
No,
I don't know. You know, there's always you can always go into the weeds with conspiracy theories and stuff behind things. You know, or I can at least. But
yeah, they wouldn't want us to talk if that were the case. They'd be like, "We're going to make it as hard as we possibly can for you guys to even even communicate with one another."
Exactly. But yeah, Hoodie, I guess when you can hear us, just let us know.
Yeah. It still shows that he's connected and everything, but
yeah. And I got something at the bottom of my phone that says chat, like it looks like a inbox. I don't know if that's something he sent me, but if you can message inside this thing. If I leave, it's because I hit the wrong button.
Understood.
Oh, yeah, he sent me a message. It says weird. I think I cut out 1 second, so I guess he's going to try and rejoin.
Okay. Looks like we have our first troll in the stream.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Chat. That didn't take very long.
No, man. I feel like we're doing something now. We got the infamous Miss Elite in our chat. That's awesome. Yeah. You may have to moderate some people here.
Yeah, maybe.
All right, I'm back. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, yep, I can hear you.
All right. Sorry about that. I was on a phone that I just have on Wi-Fi, and then I was like, you know, I gotta get on data here. It's finicky sometimes. So, my bad. I was sorry for cutting you off. I see you got is that the tropical monster there, Rev? Is that what I'm seeing?
Oh yeah. I bought the wrong one. I should have got the orange one, you know. But
yeah, you got the ultra sunrise one.
This one's ultra paradise. So.
that one's good. That one's good. I drink a lot of the ultraviolet recently, but I do have a chuckle or two every time I see the ultra sunrise in the stores. That's for sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean it's probably
not.
I mean, not good for you, but I don't know. Fuck it, you know. What do you want to live forever?
It's yeah. I mean, it's no calories, no sugar. It gets me amped. I get a little afraid of the rain. There's the rain and the bangs, and those those I feel like I'm lifting off after I take those. Sometimes I get feel like I'm flying. I mean, they're 300 milligrams.
Oh, yeah.
300. I mean, those are 140. I mean, I'm drinking 2, and sometimes I'll drink them under 5 minutes before I knew what I was doing. No,
Easy to get carried away. I understand that part.
yeah, because they taste too good. I mean, come on, you know. So
I think I'll just
all
stick
right.
with my nasty coffee. I think it's probably better for me anyway.
I mean, I'm there with you too. I mean, I'll go with some coffee. Got a Keurig, got a French press here, whatever you need. But I'm trying to curtail my caffeine a little bit during the lockdown. I haven't been working as much, so I'm like, I think now is the time to wean myself off a little bit. I've kind of been going crazy with it, so. But yeah, I'm gonna see if I can share this real quick. I'm gonna go on your channel, Dan. I'm gonna share it on mine too.
Okay, that's cool.
But yeah, Dan and I, before you joined, we were just briefly discussing local protests.
Yeah.
We did have one here, but I was surprised at the area it was in because it was in Bentonville. But versus like Fayetteville is a little bit south of me, and that's where the University of Arkansas is. I figured that would be the place it would happen at, but they didn't really have any issues like that.
Yeah, I mean, that was thinking the same too for you. I mean, up in that area, obviously it's a little bit more cosmopolitan per se than the rest of Arkansas, and then obviously wherever there's a university. I'm in Florida now. I live in Florida, and it depends on where you're at, to be honest. I got family up north, and they've seemed to have it worse, but we've had curfew down here in the city I'm in, so it's I mean, it's pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, I don't think there's any sort of curfew in the towns around myself, but you know, there have been some demonstrations and whatnot. And like the Rev, you know, this is generally a more conservative area. Like there were quite a few people here during the coronavirus that were really getting fed up with the whole policy in terms of not being allowed to leave their homes and whatnot, or not supposed to be able to do that. And with something like this, you know, I wouldn't figure there'd be a whole lot of interest, but I guess there is, and I can understand it. Like there are, you know, some ethnic minority populations within the sort of medium-sized towns here, so that's probably where it's coming from to a large extent. And a lot of the people I think in the country don't really care, but the towns have enough population where they can get a few people that want to demonstrate, I guess. But just going to avoid that as much as possible.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely spills over depending on where you're at, you know. I mean, if you're got a nearby city that you would imagine people are going to come and protest or riot or whatever, I mean, they're definitely going to come over. That's kind of been the situation with where my family's back at. I've actually had a family member with their business vandalized and whatnot. So it's been definitely, yeah, it's unfortunate, but everybody's safe, thankfully. But I did catch part of what you guys were saying. You were just saying how on the wings of a pandemic, how this can just escalate, you know, the rioting and escalate the unrest too. I mean, it's just a compound effect. People are restless. Yeah. I know people are trying to, I mean, in Florida, people are just clamoring to go to the beach bars down here. I mean, it's like, wow, we're just going on after it. I hadn't been out in a long time, and I went out and got a bite with a coworker, and then I went down to more where the beach area is, and I'm like, I'm gonna turn around. There's a little bit too much going on here. Yeah.
Well, when I was in St. Louis last weekend, I was surprised. I mean, people were my sister said they just reopened or started allowing the restaurants to have people back in again about a week earlier. And she said, and I was just surprised. I mean, places were fucking packed. People were everywhere, you know. I guess that's kind of stir crazy shit, but.
Yeah, you think people would want to sort of regulate themselves and like avoid those kinds of things for a while until there's sort of more stability with all that, like more of a process that people know they can go through and kind of like be somewhat they're not really safe from the virus anyway. That's another part of this, but
True.
You think people would hold back a little bit, but people seem to be really impatient about it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's I've just been taking my time. I have tried to limit travel. Thankfully, I've been able to work out of my house for the most part. I have had to go into my office every once in a while, but it's been, I mean, I'm definitely been thankful that I haven't had to, get in exposed as much as some other people have, and obviously it's allowed me to slow down a little bit. But yeah, I'm like I'm gonna stay away from the bar scene right now. Yeah.
Hoodie, are you and for Dan also, are you guys able to telework or work from home, or is the line of work that you're in, or do you when you do the work, do you have to go in physically to do it?
You can go first, Dan.
I'm actually disabled right now, so I haven't been doing anything for a while. But the issue with all that is, a lot of people in my family and whatnot have, sort of industrial work jobs. And the ironic thing about it is they were categorized as like essential work. So they were never really expected to shut down, but they did anyway in a lot of cases because the business just went so far down that, for economic reasons, they ended up closing shop for a while, and they're just now kind of getting back to where they're working again. So even though they didn't necessarily have to shut down, they did. And of course, there's no way to do that kind of work from home because you're using machinery and stuff like that. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah. For me, I mean, my work, I always have some type of work going on, but just to be vague, in my area of work, it's event oriented. And so it really got flipped on its head. And a lot of people in my industry were getting, laid off or furloughed. Thankfully, nobody in my business had that happen to them, but a lot are definitely have been furloughed, and positions have been cut, and just hiring and job postings have been really on a freeze. But thankfully, I've been able to work from home for the most part. My job is like 80% computer based, so definitely thankful for that. Yeah,
it's a plus. The line of work that I'm in, without getting into too much detail, it's pretty much an office job, and they it wasn't mandatory, but it's kind of like optional if you want to telework versus going into the office. And I get more done when I go in the office. So I tried the teleworking, but I was too distracted at home. So I pretty much just kept going in the office, and I don't have to deal with a lot of people anyway. And it's the way the job is. It's mostly, like I said, a bunch of government computer systems. So it's a pain in the ass to use.
Yeah, I remember that. Didn't you move to North? Were you working in like car mechanics or something? I don't know before, but you're working more of an office job now once you got to Arkansas.
Yeah, I used to be a mechanic. I was from 2001 to 2014. I worked in the private sector. It was an ASE certified master mechanic, and I really enjoyed the job, but I don't know, the pay just wasn't. I was making decent money when I finally transitioned. I basically went from as a private sector mechanic to working for the government, working on military equipment as a mechanic.
Yeah.
And I did that for about 4 years, and eventually during that time period is when I discovered MGTOW, and my whole I guess worldview and outlook on life changed. And I kind of opened my mind a little bit and expanded things that I could do. And I was like, you know what, maybe I'll just do a career change. And I was tired of living in St. Louis, and I was like, fuck it. I'm just gonna, I applied for positions all over the country in areas that I was willing to move to and live. And Arkansas was one of the first places I called. So I was like, fuck, it's the Ozarks. So I'll move there. But yeah. That's how I ended up in the office job. But
yeah, because I remember, I don't know if you might have been moving the same time that I was moving, because I know we had, or somewhere around then, I know we did a stream back in like 2018 with Hermit, and that was right on the wings of me moving.
I think that's the last one we did. was a Happy Humble
Mm-hmm.
Hermit. That stream kind of started off slow, and it ended up being a really good one by the time it ended. But
Mm-hmm.
I remember somebody in the comments section, because we were both busy, it was like, "Man, you guys sound like you're tired." But
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, man, I'm tired. I've been moving. I'm learning a new job. You know, I got other things going on. I mean, that's kind of funny. I do get that comment every once in a while, especially during the beginning of the pandemic when I started to make content still, and I was still kind of just gassed. And people are like, "Dude, is something going on? You all right?" Like, and I actually have had some vertigo or similar symptoms off and on since work slowed down. So I'm like, maybe
Yeah,
I
I
need
know
to
what
check
that's like.
myself a little bit. Yeah.
I mean you're definitely. I mean, hopefully it's nothing too serious, Hoodie, with that, because
Mm-hmm.
I mean, health is definitely a very important thing. And I mean, I know Dan's had his issues. I was actually watching one of Dan's older videos this morning, and that's fucking definitely not easy shit to deal with.
No, and it's kind of my fault because I haven't been able to figure out kind of which doctors to see and whatnot. So it's on me for the most part. But my symptoms started when I was in law school after I had just been in there for like 3 weeks or so, and I had moved to a different state, and I had broken up with my girlfriend before then, and at that time, like, everything seemed to kind of be moving in the right direction. And then all of a sudden, like right in the middle of class, I had a pretty bad vertigo spell. And then from that point, I've never really recovered from it completely. So
Interesting.
yeah, it's messed up. But
No, because that's strange, because it's kind of somewhat similar to what I had like a couple weeks ago. I was just working on my computer, and all of a sudden I felt like the words were like moving around on my screen,
yeah,
and I just went on a walk for like, 20 minutes, and I was like, I need to come back. And I just sat inside. Got it checked out. I got like a CAT scan, got like blood work done a couple days later. I was like, is something going on? I don't know. Do I have like an autoimmune thing? And so, I mean, that I feel for you, man. That's that's debilitating, because it's hard to think then too.
yeah. And since that point, like, I actually was able to walk back to my apartment after my first vertigo episode that I mentioned. And since that point, I've had pretty good headaches as well. And so it's just kind of like, I also had a car accident, but it was like 3 or 4 months before all this started. So there's always been kind of an unknown as to whether that really started a sequence of events and then everything else on top of it kind of led to those symptoms, or, I've been trying to figure it out for years. So it's just something I have to continue to try to do better with.
How long has it been going
on? Longer than it should have. So this was like in the fall of 2009. So this has been a long time now.
Oh, dude. Okay.
So yeah, I really think it could have been sort of like a soft tissue injury that like the CAT scans and MRIs didn't detect, because I went through all that as well. But most of the stuff came back normally, and it just kind of is what it is. I'm still trying to go to doctors and whatnot, but then this COVID thing started. So it's just like, well, probably not going to be doing that for a while. It's just now things are starting to kind of go back to being open again and stuff. So
has it kind of stabilized in any way? Like, have you like kind of just learned how to deal with it on a day-to-day?
Yeah, I mean, there's kind of like a baseline level of dizziness now, where I kind of still have that feeling in the background, as long as I don't sort of like stress myself out more. But it's kind of stabilized, but it can get worse at times as well still. And then my headaches vary from day to day as well. So that just is what it is, I guess.
I see. Yeah, and I know you follow his channel, Rev.
Oh yeah.
CL Barrett. I mean, he's been going through some stuff right now too. I've been keeping up with him. Yeah, it's just a weird time. I think the stress of this situation too is has really gotten to a lot of people and has exacerbated some stuff too.
Exactly. But definitely, yeah. And I feel you too. I know Dan had talked about it before. I believe finding the right doctor makes a difference too. Because I got this guy I'm dealing with here. Just my primary care guy is just a fucking, just a real asshole. You know, and it'd be one thing if he was, if you know, I was getting some good care, I could deal with the personality issue. But I got to find a new fucking doctor down here myself. So.
Yeah, man. I mean, just like the temperament, just how they go about their, you know, their day, just their affect has a lot to do with whether or not you even want to deal with them. Because I mean, sometimes it can be stressful stuff. So you don't want to be messing with that. But
man, I didn't think we'd get all these trolls in this stream like this.
Yeah, we've had a couple so far.
It's all good.
Funny. Because Hoodie, you're like, yeah, you're like one of the least controversial content creators out there.
I know.
In the MGTOW lane, you know. So.
Yeah. Hey, if you're not getting trolled, you're not doing it right? So
yeah.
that's how it works. I just kind of laugh about it. I mean, like you are. I mean, at this point, you know, I haven't gotten threatened really. I've gotten a few emails over the years that are like scathing emails, like I'm going to shut you down and shut off your sources of income. And I'm like, listen, I'm demonetized. I don't even make any money. Like,
Not off this.
Yeah. It's like, okay, like, thanks for that. Yeah. I'm just here to make some content. That's what I'm here for. Meet some people. So yeah, I know it's funny.
Yeah. Somebody, this guy, I'm assuming a guy, but maybe not. Looks Max Doc made a comment that says most docs are blue pilled, just want money for the women, to be honest. But I do agree with that. I mean, I can't because one thing that with my doctor that I was talking about, and that just told me I don't think that I personally don't believe he knows what the fuck he's talking about, was because I was in there telling him about, you know, talking about how, you know, I raised my testosterone through diet and exercise and, you know, things like that. And he basically was saying, no, you can't do that. You know, what your testosterone level is that's just what you naturally produce out. And I was just like, this doesn't make sense, even from my own personal experience, you know, just, but that type of shit was what kind of turned me off from him. Plus him being an asshole too. But
yeah, I mean, it definitely can be the case. I mean, Dan, I don't know if you've ran into that.
Well, you know, my thing about it is that I've discovered is when a doctor is wrong, there's kind of few consequences. Like, unless a doctor commits malpractice, in that case, you know, they have to worry about getting sued and stuff like that. But if a doctor's just wrong in how they diagnose you, it's like they just pass you on to a different doctor, basically. I've noticed that people, you know, they make fun of attorneys and whatnot, but attorneys actually have to win their cases, as an example, in order to have a good reputation within their profession. Doctors can just like have no idea what's wrong with you, just kind of pick and choose what they want to diagnose you with. And then it's like, if they're wrong, then that's kind of your problem. That's what I've noticed with it.
That's a good point.
And then unfortunately, if they're wrong, you're the person left to deal with it, not them.
Right. Exactly. So, you know, even if they're wrong more than half the time, it's like they're probably going to continue to be able to practice and whatnot. So, and a lot of people trying to find doctors, you know, they're going to continue to get more patients probably. So, you know, I've had a few good doctors. Again, you know, the responsibility lies with me. It's like I haven't been able to figure out what the solution is. And I've had a few good doctors that have actually tried to help. So, you know, they're not all bad, but a lot of it's been a waste of time and effort. And then, you know, you have to wait months to see specialists and stuff sometimes. And sometimes they don't know what they're talking about either. So you kind of really have to do your research and look for online reviews and stuff like that. That's how I'd recommend going about finding a decent doctor, although you can see how much success I've had with it. But, you know, that's what I would do. I try to find references or online reviews for people, for doctors.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, it's a good point though. I mean, there's not always that follow up like, oh, was this a successful diagnosis, especially if it's something that's kind of more uncommon or just, you kind of feel around for different things. But yeah, I could definitely see in your situation, Rev. I mean, I'm going there, I'm taking care of myself, I'm trying to raise my testosterone, I'm working out, I'm lifting weights, I'm, eating the right foods, and then you go in there and it's going to be treated like some homeopathic mumbo jumbo
Yeah.
versus, medication and prescriptions and getting into all that world.
Yeah. That was just like one example of some of the
Right.
stuff. I mean, I'm not saying the guy's a total quack, but it's just like, I don't know. It just was something that irritated me. But I guess he knows best, though, right? He's the doctor. So.
You're right. Right. No, just taking these red pills. That's the only pill I'm taking. These red pills.
Yeah. Yeah. No shit. Speaking of that, too, Hoodie, I was wanting to ask you a little bit because I know I sent you guys those notes and kind of doing topics, but I was you took a little bit of a break, obviously, from making content, and how has that experience been for you?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, it was good for me in the sense that it allowed me to kind of get my mind around some new things I wanted to talk about and where I wanted to go. It was actually unintentional, quite frankly. Just I took the new job. I moved right around that time that we did the stream, and for like about a year and a half, it was 70, 80-hour work weeks for 10, 11 months out of the year. So just kind of, I was just fried. And so, I was just fried mentally, and I was like, any free time that I had, I was pretty much sleeping. So, it was, I definitely realized I missed the outlet of making content, or at least having some writing opportunities to write, opportunities to talk to different guys. It was a really good outlet that I missed.
Yeah, well, because I mean, you definitely have one of the bigger channels in the community, but Dan and I can't really speak for Dan per se, but him and I don't make necessarily regular content. I just kind of, when I feel like making a video, I make one, and my shit's mostly, it's kind of turned into more of a vlog than me actually spitting out any lessons learned, But even the low quality shit that I put out, I mean, it does take some effort to try and put a video out daily. I can tell you from my experience.
Yeah,
you were definitely deep into it. So.
Yeah, I mean, for a while it was interesting. Like I was kind of when I first started making content, I was in like a transition period of my own personal life in terms of what I wanted to do career wise. And so I was like, maybe this is something that I really, really want to put a lot of hours into. And, I'm going to think about how I'm going to go about my career and if I'm going to lessen those hours. And then I kind of switched around and was like, no, I'm going to take that more seriously because a new opportunity came up. And it does take some energy. I'll say I'm still not the guy that's going to go through a bunch of news articles and is going to comb around and get images and splice together a whole reel of things. Like some guys really put a lot of effort in. I used to watch guys like Coltane maybe, and they would really do a deep dive, and I think those are interesting, but I didn't have like the just blocked away time to do that, so I kind of just went like daily and whatever came into my mind, and I write down notes, I talk to different people, and that's kind of how it is. I've also started writing a lot and trying to put together some kind of book just to like a basics. I know a lot of guys have been doing that now, but I think just for myself to have it on paper is going to be good. And then I made a little bit of about just 20, 30 pages about narcissism too and what I've experienced, because I know that's a pretty popular topic too.
Yeah.
Yeah, those channels blow up. I mean, you just get these psychologists and they go on and they start talking about narcissism, and it's just like, just boom, like it just explodes. But it does take some energy, man. I do watch your stuff. I watch Dan's stuff too. People ask me some of my favorite content and content creators, and It goes. It's all over the place, kind of. I mean, Paul Proteus. I used to watch like he was one of my favorites. I know we talked about M Crafts, like just things like that. Just doesn't need to be a lot.
Well, that's the kind of cyclical thing that seems to be in this particular part of the MGTOW world, I guess, and on YouTube at least, is Paul hasn't put out a video in a while, but M Crafts pulled all his content down. But it's sad. It's kind of sad to me when that happens, when the channel's gone, or they just hide their content or delete it, because that's just a lot of good information that's just gone. Unless you capture it yourself, and download it. But M Crafts had a lot of his main one. I think the best video he ever did, which obviously you can't see anymore, is the 3 types of love. That was a really good one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he had some really great content. He was one of the first guys that I found.
Oh yeah,
and he had another good one, just kind of sharing his story. I think he was in the military, and then he came back to the States, and he married a Russian woman, and she came over and divorced him. He went through that. He was living in a garage and all that stuff. All of it's gone. I mean, it's crazy to think about. And there are a lot of guys out there that are like taking a lot of effort to log content, which I think is cool.
Mm-hmm. But like you, Hoodie, I mean, it's when I first got into MGTOW, I really was just dove in deep, and I probably for at least a good year, almost 2 years, probably. That was probably almost all I watched on YouTube. But I mean, I have other interests. I watch other shit. Sports. Of course, I can't watch any fucking live sports now, but sports, firearms, military shit, space, astronomy. We're all complex individuals, so I can't. It's MGTOW has gotten so big, and this is a good thing, a good problem to have, but it's gotten so big, I can't keep up with all the content creators that are out there now. Kind of got to pick and choose who you like, I guess, and spend the time on those channels.
Yeah,
but,
I mean,
good thing.
That's another thing that's good to remember is like we all have our own particular interests outside of MGTOW, and it definitely makes for, I'm going to make certain content because of my particular interests or my values or how, I grew up or what I've seen. And it's good to remember that because like you said, you have so much to choose from now. And it's also interesting to see the channels that come up. Like, I think Before You Sleep and like Better Bachelor, it's kind of like, I haven't really watched a lot of their stuff, but it gets grouped into the MGTOW content. And it's like a lot of content that's like MGTOW-ish, but also just like thinking based or like new idea based or PUA-ish, so it's like, where does it fall? So it's just kind of like all in there now. It's like a pot.
Like a greater philosophical.
Yeah. And I think Stardust and like Thinking Ape, I mean, I watched a lot of his stuff and he kind of.
Yeah, me too.
Goes in. Human is like that too. I know he's, Sandman obviously is one of those guys that just continually has been MGTOW in every title. I don't really watch his stuff anymore, but I know I did. Nice.
I do from time to time.
Oh, say again, Dan?
I watch some of Sandman's stuff occasionally still, but like, I've kind of learned a lot of the concepts that he's talked about already. So, that's more for people that I think are just discovering sort of MGTOW ideas and stuff like that. But I still watch his stuff occasionally. I'm still subscribed to Sandman and all that. So,
yeah, they always describe him as like Sandman is the like gatekeeper to MGTOW. It's like he's like the guy that people get introduced to and they see and they're like, do I like this? Do I not like this?
Yeah. He's the gateway drug for sure.
Yeah, that's a good. That was what I was missing. Those are that's what I meant to say. Yeah.
It's hard to go back after that. But.
Yeah. Yeah, he's
He was
the
first.
joint that you smoke just casually and you don't know what you're getting into, and then it's just like you're gone. You're in this whole rabbit hole now. I'm sure there are people that have been like that. I mean, I probably was like that, to be honest. I didn't know what I was getting into, and the next thing you know, it's this thing that I've participated in for 4 years of my life. You know, it's like,
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad, definitely, obviously glad I discovered it, but it was, I was trying to think back the other day, and I can't even remember how I found it, but it just, I don't know if I was Googling something, but either way, I came across a Sandman video, and it was off to the races after that.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How did you find it, Dan?
Dronte75 mentioned that he says the most important loss has possibly been the Dark Knight channel. Do you guys remember that channel, or was that before your time?
It was gone before I, well, if it was, maybe it wasn't gone, but I didn't come into MGTOW, or at least start viewing content until late 2015. So if it was up still then in 2015, I just might have missed it. But nah, I haven't seen it.
That is really kind of, that channel and TFM were probably the two channels that I started watching. I kind of found Karen Straughn's channel first, and I didn't really, I kind of found the MRA side of the manosphere first, and then I kind of basically then from that point on, I discovered other channels. But the Dark Knight really, like, he made a whole bunch of content within a short period of time, and he kind of had a science background to a lot of the stuff that he was saying. So a lot of his stuff, like, it was really valuable stuff. But I think he got fed up with the infighting and with, kind of the petty rivalries within the manosphere. And he basically just took his channel down after a period of time because he didn't like people going after one another and whatnot when we're all supposed to be going our own way and kind of focusing on what we're doing. So he was kind of a casualty of all that, I think. But he had some good content.
Well, if that's the reason he took his channel down, it's a shame. But unfortunately, that has been a problem in the community for I don't know if it's been the entire time, but definitely since I've been involved, there's been a few dust ups. But I try to stay out of that fray and get into this drama shit and fucking, really name people by name, if I got a problem with them.
Yeah, it got pretty hilarious for a while. I mean, I still do enjoy the JB Gunner Cuck Eli banter that goes back and forth. It's my guilty pleasure.
It's interesting, but it's weird how, maybe not weird, but it's interesting. I mean, these people have built some people have built their whole channels just based upon that. And it's just like,
yeah.
Hey, if it works for them, I guess it works for them,
Yeah, it's very odd. It's like you're devoting all this time and energy just to this. Like, really? That's what you're doing?
Usually, if I don't, me personally, if there's a content creator that I don't necessarily see eye to eye with or have a disagreement with, I just quit watching their stuff. It's pretty much what I do. But rather than make a drama video and calling them out and saying, "Oh, you're fucking wrong," whatever. I don't know. I'd probably get more views if I made drama shit, but I'm just not into that thing.
It's too much of a headache for sure. But yeah, going back to losing channels, I think the other one, Razorblade Candy, I think, is not on there anymore. I don't think any of this stuff is available.
Yeah, he was one of the early MGTOW guys too.
Coterie, I think, too. I'm trying to remember if he has any stuff as well.
Coterie basically decided that he didn't like the MGTOW label anymore, and I think he got probably upset with the infighting too. I'm not exactly sure what happened to his stuff, but he took his stuff down as well.
Gotcha.
So.
I remember Coterie. He had his stuff was really introspective. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I had to see him take his stuff down.
Yeah, he was kind of all in that kind of Coltane, Spetsnaz human group. And Spetsnaz is another guy that kind of stopped for a while.
Oh yeah. I think that's a huge difference, and this is just my opinion, obviously, and point of view, but that's one thing that seems like a big difference with the MGTOW content, the overall MGTOW content that's being produced today versus 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. It seemed like the older stuff was more philosophical and it stayed on point with the message. And over the last couple of years, it just seemed it's turned into this drama fest and infighting and beef videos and shit. But maybe that's just my perspective. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think the biggest thing for me is you see more content that's like, it'll take snippets from like TikTok videos or, you know, like you see all those like MGTOW compilations or like hypergamy in real life or something like that. Or, you know, it's like that type of stuff.
Yeah. Examples of like bad female behavior, stuff like that.
Yeah. Like to the nth degree where it's just like, this is kind of shock jock stuff. And while it's definitely happening, it's definitely far different from what like Barbarossa, Stardust, like those guys were talking about, you know, initially. Now it's just kind of like fast food. And I think that ends up being a gatekeeper for a lot of guys that get into MGTOW is they see MGTOW and then they end up just like, I'll know guys and they hear about MGTOW and then they're sending me stuff they see on TikTok, sending me stuff they see on Snapchat. And I'm like, yeah, that's what happens out there. That's what it is.
I mean, I guess the bottom line, as long as the message is getting out there, I guess that's to me, that's still the most important thing is, excuse me, is helping somebody out, like guys your age and younger, just to understand what the fuck they're getting involved with, you know?
Yeah, it's not that the philosophical content isn't out there. You can still find it. It's just that, you know, there's more and more of these sort of drama / you know, superficial level type of content out there than there's been before in the past. And I think it's mostly because of just the YouTube model. Like YouTube buries certain channels and then other channels that, you know, and sooner or later, you know, the algorithm figures out, well, you're making MGTOW content or men's issues content. And then, you know, it kind of throttles the growth of that channel anyway. So it's kind of like, you know, I think that a lot of it has to do with YouTube's policies and how they sort of implement things. Some people think they're going to make money off of making MGTOW content, and it only lasts for a short period of time, I think, before their channels get throttled down anyway or get demonetized and stuff like that. So I think a lot of it has to do or relates to kind of the stuff that's going on with YouTube itself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Definitely plays a factor. Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely the case. And I think some guys do get into it right away. And that's why you see certain guys removing MGTOW from their headlines or from the titles of their videos. And ever since I started making content, I was warned, you know, you should do the same. You should do the same. And yeah, I mean, maybe I should have done the same if I wanted to stay monetized. But if as long as my videos are still up and they're not getting taken down, which thankfully they have not, I'm fine. I mean, I imagined that I was going to get caught, so to speak, at some point. You know, I still live with a lot of paranoia in my personal life about getting caught because it definitely would impact my career. Yeah. So I mean, I'm just trying to prepare as much as you can for that because you never know what could happen in the modern day.
But you don't really like swear in your content or anything like that. You don't really make hateful statements. So you may be the last man standing of the major channels. If YouTube decides to go all out and kind of like banning channels or taking channels down, which I think it's only a matter of time before they do. You may end up, people are going to have a hard time saying that you have hateful content. I think it's really going to be hard for them to make that case. YouTube's just going to have to kind of ignore their own language and their own policies and just be as vague as possible. If they're going to start taking channels down from people that like, they don't swear, they don't say hateful things against women. They just put out their opinion. Their opinion's just not popular within the sort of interests, the corporate interests at hand. So it's going to be harder, I think, to take down a channel like that than to justify taking down a channel that's always just like talking about how bad women are or how, you know, basically how things are in a sort of very raw kind of in your face way. I think that those channels will probably be taken down first.
Yeah. Well, that's been a pattern, like you said, Dan, like the channels, some of the channels that are a little more, like you said, in your face or rough around the edges and raw, the or controversial, I guess.
Yeah, you could use a lot of different terms probably.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, and I've noticed a lot of content creators are moving to other platforms like BitChute and MGTOW TV. I have a BitChute account, but I haven't really I put one video up, but I haven't really went all the way in on BitChute. And MGTOW TV looks pretty good, but like I was saying in a video of mine, the only issue I have with MGTOW TV is it's an echo chamber. So most people that go to MGTOW TV already know about MGTOW, you know, and
Yeah.
it's kind of why I look at YouTube as a vehicle where somebody who's never heard of MGTOW can find it, come across it, and maybe become enlightened, you know?
Yeah, that's one of the purposes, I think, of putting the content out there for sure. One of the main things, yeah. But you know, even among other MGTOW men, like there are different, because each man is going his own way and like a different sort of pattern or mindset. I think that there's like room for discussions, I think, still. But I haven't really checked out MGTOW TV, so that it may be an echo chamber. I haven't really like assessed that. But I also have a BitChute account, and I wanted to kind of use that to post kind of more political videos, I think, in the future, because that's the stuff that's even more controversial than men's issues in a lot of cases. So I've been thinking about using my BitChute account for that. But I don't know, like, so you're just not going to get the traffic on those sites compared to YouTube. So it's sort of a game, I think, in terms of how long it's going to be that we can stay on YouTube. And then at some point we'll be forced to kind of find other platforms anyway. So we might as well try to establish, I think, a presence now if we can, because sooner or later we're going to have to move over there anyway. I think if things play out the way I think they will.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, because I think the time is limited, and I'm even surprised we're here in 2020 and there hasn't been more of a nuke launched on it yet.
Yep.
I mean, I think, you know, whether it's podcasts, whether it's books, you know, obviously the new platforms are coming up, but I think all those things are going to be important to do. And I think it's going to continue to be important for guys to put their thoughts down in different areas. I haven't gone to the MGTOW TV or BitChute thing yet, just because, you know, you only have so much time to, you know, even devote to YouTube. But
yeah, exactly. And that's part of what you just said, Hoodie, is part of the reason why I haven't invested more into those other platforms. It is a time game. You know, we only have so much time, and I got other things going on than just make fucking videos all the time, upload them and shit. And you know, you just gotta even things out, you know. So
yeah, I mean, exactly. It's pretty. I mean, Sandman reached out to me recently. He's like, "Hey, man, like you should probably look into uploading to MGTOW TV. A lot of us are." And I was like, "Yeah, you know, I think I'll probably take." Kind of my goal is to maybe take my top, you know, couple videos and post them there. Just, you know, the ones that actually I know people might go back and refer to, because I think there are a lot of videos on YouTube that people refer to specifically from certain creators, like Paul Proteus, for example. I always watch hypergamy floats. I just watch that all the time.
Yeah, we need your gym thought one up there.
Man, that video kills me, because that ended up being like the reason my channel got views, and I was like, this is ironic. You know, this is just like very, very ironic. I put that video up, and then I probably had a 5% of the subscribers I have now, and then the next day it was like at 60,000 or 70,000 views, and I'm like, I was kind of actually getting scared, to be honest.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I didn't intend for this to happen with this video. But the funny thing is, so many different people came to that video that had no idea what I was talking about, and they saw the thumbnail and they was like, what? It's just this guy. It's just this guy talking. There aren't any gym thoughts on this video. It's like, sorry, man. Yeah, it's just this thing called MGTOW. You can leave now if you want. So funny.
I actually, you know, out of all the content in general, I prefer just the talking videos. I don't normally sit around and watch YouTube. I just kind of put it on the background and listen to it while I'm doing things or driving or whatever.
Yeah, same for me. I don't typically watch. I listen Yeah, most of my YouTube consumption is audio. It's not
Yep.
visual. I might, if I'm like watching a video before I go to bed or something like that, it's more going to be like, you know, somebody doing something, or, you know, some workout or whatever it is. It's not going to be just audio based, but that's the same for me. It's just kind of companion media.
Well, unless it's a cat video, those are the only ones I watch.
Cat, yes, cat videos you definitely want to be watching. Puppy videos, you know, just DIY videos.
Yeah. Lower my blood pressure. You know, so.
Yeah, exactly. Just to chill out at the end of the day, you know, watch a cat play with the ball yarn, you know.
Yeah, sometimes MGTOW won't do that exactly. Sometimes it'll raise your blood pressure a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm just getting more upset right now. You know, that was the thing. I had seen that. So Barstool Sports, as much as I try to ignore them, my friend like brought it up the other day. So Barstool Sports has this podcast called Call Her Daddy, and it's like the #1 podcast on whatever main podcast app is. And
Call Her Daddy?
I'm like, yeah, it's basically these two probably 24, 5-year-old girls that just get on a couple mics and they talk about just their sexual conquests and just their crazy millennial behavior, and it just gets all kinds of listens. And so I was like, oh,
that's not surprising.
Yeah, it's not at all. And they have a whole brand within Barstool, and Dave Portnoy, who's like the head Barstool guy, reached out to them. And speaking of getting your blood boiling, I was like, I'm gonna make a quick video on this, and I listened to about 30 minutes of it, and yeah, that did make my blood boil. Yeah, that kind of pissed me off.
It's like I haven't heard it, but I'm gonna check it out. But I'm just assuming it's definitely anybody who's been red pilled would understand what the fuck you're hearing, I guess.
Oh yeah, I would be very curious to see. I would imagine on some of their content there are comments that are like, go your own way, just like randomly sitting there. Yeah. You know, just that they have no idea what they're looking at. Like, they're scrolling through comments and liking different people's comments, and they're like, what are these guys talking about going their own way? Like,
would you say, as I haven't seen it, but would you say it's a good example of the modern thought or thoughtery? Or...
Oh yeah. Yes, it is to a T the modern thought. It is the modern harlot, as they would say, that is making this content. It's like, I wrote down a couple notes, and the word that always sticks out to me with these girls is like their obsession with being crazy. So like, the crazier that they are, the more clout that they have amongst their friends. So it's like, I have a crazier story than you have about some Chad that I met up with and how I ghosted him, or I got this out of him. And one of the things that they talked about is recently, it was everything that you do wrong, you can turn on him. So that's like what they were teaching girls how to do in like the last video. Everything that you do wrong, turn on him. So they talked about getting like an STD at one point, and how they baited their boyfriend into revealing if he had cheated on them because of their STD. So they're like,
man, it sounds like just the anti-MGTOW. It's like the exact, they're teaching thoughts how to be more thoughtish, I guess.
Yeah, it's like what people are like. So what is antithetical to MGTOW? What is the polar opposite? If people ask me that, and I'm like, it's not really feminism. I'm like, it's Call Her Daddy. It's this podcast.
Of course, the more guys that see that, the more guys might actually look for sort of MGTOW ideas and concepts too after they see that kind of stuff enough. So that it could actually help men sort of take the red pill by looking at that kind of stuff and drawing conclusions.
That's the other thing, like OnlyFans and eSimps and this Twitch thought, like that actually can end up being marketing for MGTOW.
I think it is. Yeah. I think it's perfect. I mean, you still got those simps out there simping, but anybody that's got the fucking red pill lens on can just see right through that shit. At least, well, in my opinion, from my view.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would think the same. And I have this talk with certain guys. I'm just like, it's very weird. Ever since I've heard people talk about MGTOW concepts, you cannot help but go back. You can't go back to thinking how you used to, you know, like it's almost impossible for you to reverse what you thought. And so when I see this content, I'm like, isn't it so obvious? Why don't guys understand this? Like, I don't get it. Like, isn't it so clear as day what's happening right now? They're convincing you that you cheated on her and got an STD from another girl and gave it to her. You know, it's like, if I've ever heard of gaslighting, that is it right there.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that is the worst gaslighting I've ever heard. Now you think that you almost gave her, you know, HIV. You know, it's like, it's like whatever. So it's just, you know, I agree. I agree. I think people will have their eyes open.
Yeah. Well, and kind of circling back around, like what we were talking about earlier, where the content some of the content has become just showing examples of bad female behavior. That shit's actually starting to go mainstream. Like, at least what I'm telling, or from what I can see, like one example is that lady in New York who was walking her dog or whatever in Central Park and called the cops on that black dude, saying that he was harassing her and threatening her. When I don't know, did you see that video by chance? Or
I did. Go into it. I haven't seen it.
Well, basically, she called the cops on this guy. He happened to be black, and the media was trying to spin it into this racial profiling thing. I looked at it more from my view as an example of bad female behavior, where she was trying to use her female privilege or whatever to say that this guy is scaring her and threatening her in the park and trying to get the cops to come and arrest him.
The Karen phenomenon.
Yeah. But it backfired on her. It completely backfired because it was recorded. And the guy's sister put it up on Twitter and it went viral. And she ended up getting fired from her job, and her fucking dog. She was like swinging the dog around and was choking the dog in the video, and it was a rescue dog. And like she had to give the dog back to the rescue shelter. It was all fucking crazy, man.
Wow.
And she was like, she worked, I can't remember the company she worked for, but she was a vice president of some investment banking company, if I remember correctly. And it was, I don't think necessarily it's got to go that far. People are getting fired because of bad decisions, but yeah, in the modern woke culture, you make one misstep, man, and blue pill society wants to make you fucking pay.
You're going down. Like we're taking you down. We are nuking you, like to know. It's just like, I mean, you saw it even with the Drew Brees thing. I mean, it's so crazy. If you guys know what's gone on with him,
I read that he had something to do with an apology and Trump or something like that, but I have no idea what happened. I'm kind of sick of the whole, situation that's been going on around that. So I didn't even look up what that was, but I heard something about it.
Yeah, I am too. Like, for sure, I'm sick of it. I just saw it and I put two and two together that he made some comment about how he would never stand beside somebody that would kneel instead of, salute or give pledge of allegiance to the flag. And he said that like recently, and now the world is like taking him down. And Drew Brees for NFL quarterbacks is like one of the most highly respected family men, like figures in modern sports.
Well, and I don't know every single detail of the story, but it basically got twisted into this thing to where they're trying to make him out to, from what I can see, trying to make him out to be some sort of racist. And that's all he was talking about was the flag, and the national anthem.
Right.
Yeah, it's getting spun totally differently. And he ended up apologizing for it and all this shit. I mean, I don't know, man. I say, if people make mistakes, I'm not saying he made a mistake, but I say stand by your convictions. If that's the fucking way he feels, he shouldn't have to apologize for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just continually the people that say nothing is, there's no right or wrong. You can't really criticize anybody for, just let them believe what they believe. The same people that are saying that are like, no, you have to think this certain way. You can't say those things. It's just total double talk all the time, and so I agree. I mean, you shouldn't have to lose your reputation based on an opinion. it's unfortunate, but it's the case. And people act like, oh, we have somebody on record as saying something, let's say, misogynistic, and we act like that's never been said ever before in a bar or when dudes are playing video games, or it's said repeatedly.
Yeah, it really is thought police 1984ish type shit. And it, as we all well know, just from dealing in the MGTOW shit, there really isn't a true freedom of speech out here, at least not in our country anymore.
Not in a practical sense. It's just that they can't throw you in jail for what you say, but other than that, like there's no freedom of speech in practice, because the negative consequences that you face are almost as bad as getting thrown in jail. So that's another reason why I think, MGTOW and the whole idea of walking away, not just from relationships, but from society's expectations, is important, because unless you do like Drew Brees and apologize for everything, you can't really you can't pursue what society tells you're supposed to do. Like, you have to always be sorry and always, say exactly the right thing and whatnot, or you will lose your position. Like, if Drew Brees didn't apologize, his position could be in jeopardy in terms of like being the starting quarterback for the Saints and stuff. Like, they could say, oh, well, we don't want you to represent our franchise anymore because you won't apologize for this. Like, I could easily see something like that happening.
He could be blackballed like Kaepernick was.
Different reasons, but the same result. And
right.
I'd say Drew Brees has more talent than Kaepernick does as well. But I would say, you've got that kind of thing where you have to toe the line, or you basically, if you don't do that, you have to kind of go your own way to some degree, like away from that, because that's what's required of you if you live up to the expectations that most people have.
Great point. I mean, that's a lot of the MGTOW concept too, that I think is important to share with people, that it's not just about, divorce and alimony. It's simply about the expectations that society puts on a man to not only be perfect in action, but be perfect in everything that he says all the time, and to never have a blemish. Because if you say something wrong, like you said, it's almost as bad as being incarcerated, because what's left? You lose your reputation, then you could lose your income. If you lose your income, then you lose your ability to just do different things and be respected by people, especially as a male. So it's almost like you're incarcerated in the open world. It's real sad, and people gloss over that. And it's one of the biggest justifications for me when people question how I live. And I'm like, what I say to them is like, I just like living at my own pace. I say something like that, but it's pretty much that thesis too. It's just like, I don't want to be enslaved by problems that come into the picture because I want to be corporate man,
That's one thing I think from a political perspective that's really used to kind of distract people. If you get people trying to like defend the language of the Constitution and defend, the right to free speech on that basis, you could effectively take your right to free speech away anyhow, based on how things kind of are today, in terms of, losing your job and losing your livelihood, and then just pretend like, oh, you're still defending your constitutional rights, but yet we've kind of they've gone through the back door and taken your right to free speech away anyhow. So, I mean, the same is true with other things. Like, you could say you have the right to due process, but then if a woman makes an accusation against you and can make it stick, that's not really due process. It's just very easy to do that today. And you distract people by getting them to defend, a certain document or a certain law, when really you could just take their rights away through the culture and through society anyway.
Yeah, it's kind of a subversive destruction of, individual rights. People don't realize that they're partaking in. And I think that's a lot of what underpins MGTOW, is guys that are like, yeah, like what Rev said. I mean, it's assault on freedom of speech, and we're realizing that, and we're like, well, in order for us to carve out our kind of freedom of speech, we're taking aliases, like that's like, that's what we're doing. We're not even using our names or faces in some cases, and it's like that's pretty telling of what's happening. you know, because I know for me, if I were to, you know, be found, I mean, I might not be fired, but I could be, you know, and I definitely was a concern of mine when I did the CNN interview back. I didn't end up getting used, but I was like, who knows? Maybe this ends up being a popular episode and people recognize my voice, you know?
Yeah, that's, you know, you're right. That's why we use pseudonyms, and that's why we don't give precise information about where we're at or what we're doing. It's because we know that there would be negative consequences, even though, you know, really the culture should say, hey, let them think and say what they want, as long as they're not threatening violence against people and whatnot. But that's not what you get from a lot of people. You have to toe the politically correct line, and if you don't, there's negative consequences to it. So, you know, it's free speech and name only a lot of the time.
Yeah,
Definitely.
absolutely. And then in order to be a part of the economic, you know, cog today, you really have to toe that politically correct line. I mean, they're so intertwined now. You know, the blue pill, you know, kind of politically correct, not really truthful, but what doesn't hurt people's feelings keeps you qualified to make money in a lot of spheres.
Yep.
So it's just, yeah. And a lot of people that I come across, I mean, I have one example in particular that I just became good friends with this guy. He didn't know I made content, but he kind of brought up, one time he brought up like DeWalt, and I was like, okay, this guy is listening to some stuff. And he knew me, and I was like, all right, I'm going to talk to this guy a little bit, see how much he knows. And so I kind of was vague about it. And I'm like, yeah, you know, I know about hypergamy and red pill and stuff like that. And he was like, dude, like, we should make content. Like, we should do podcasts and everything about it. And I'm like, yeah, I'm like, yeah, dude, that's a good idea. You know, that's a good idea and everything. But he still didn't understand the dangers of certain things. And so, you know, it's different for everybody. I mean, I think the ideal thing is like, let's say I was an underwater welder, you know, and I was making mad money, and who cares if I'm saying, you know, I can be seen, my name can be out there. Who cares if, you know, I go underwater and weld? They're not going to take that job away from me.
Yeah, well, and that's kind of like, that's an example of something I was going to mention. Is it depends on what area of work you're in versus, you know, corporate, government, private. That plays a factor too. Like my situation, again, I don't want to get fucking doxxed or, you know, have any problems, but at the same time, the type of stuff I do, I'm really good at. So
yeah,
if my employer was going to fire me or kick me out of my organization, they would definitely have to think twice. I'm not saying they wouldn't do it, but they'd probably be like, we really don't want to fucking do this. You know, I mean, yeah, we may not like this guy's views or his YouTube channel, but this guy is valuable to the organization. I think they would think about it before they just canned me. But at the same time, I still have my trade skills and my fucking tools. I can go back to being a mechanic if I want. And people who need their car fixed, the majority of them, I'm sure, would not give a fuck about my YouTube channel as long as I did quality repair on their car, you know?
Yeah. A lot of good points there. That's what Tyler and Dan, he was talking to me about, is he was bringing up some, I don't know, he brought up some speech that Mike Rowe said, or was presented, and he was like, you don't see the men that are in, you don't see as many men in trades now. And the thing that being in trades benefits men is that it makes you more bulletproof to the public doxing and the shaming, because you're making income and you have a skill that can work in any part of the world and you can still have a source of income. So I think a lot of guys are realizing that, and they're like, okay, maybe I'm going to stop going to college and I'm not going to do this career. I'm going to use what skill I do have with my hands. And so there's that benefit to having a really hard skill, because it protects you from it and it gives you a little bit more freedom. Unfortunately, for my job, it doesn't. I have to be very careful. And not a lot of people understand that too.
Mm-hmm. Well, an added benefit, I believe this applies to all of us on this panel. If it doesn't, that's fine. But an added thing with me personally, though, is, you know, I've never been married and I don't have any kids. So I don't have responsibilities that I got to pay for like that. So I don't need to kiss people's ass to keep my job, you know? So that's an added benefit there.
Yeah. Bingo. I mean, yeah, same for me. I mean, it's true. If you have if you have alimony to pay every month and you risk getting incarcerated if you're not paying your child support rather, then you have to toe that line. You have an obligation then if you want to be a free citizen. It's like it's a totally different ball game. The single man that gets fired, he might have to move. He might have to move far away, but he can still probably get another job. And that just doesn't click with a lot of people before they get into situations.
Yeah. And although I will say, a lot of the situation I'm in with no kids, no marriage, some of that was just fucking dumb luck. I just was thankfully never gotten a woman pregnant. And eventually got a vasectomy. But the marriage thing, I just never, thankfully, went down that road, and didn't get burned. But
if you remember Heartburn, he mentioned that as well. If you've ever heard him talk about his kind of sort of his testimony or his route to MGTOW, he talked about how there's a couple of relationships that he was in that could have led to marriage, but they ended for different reasons. And then later on, he started to kind of figure out red pill knowledge and really kind of just decided that wasn't for him. So some of it is just circumstance. If you're a married guy and you find MGTOW too late, you're kind of stuck in that situation because you've signed that contract with the state. But in some ways it's lucky to figure it out before you end up making a decision that could really have a negative impact on your life for a long time.
Yeah, some of us are just lucky to weather the storm. That's all it comes down to. A lot of the guys are just, you weather the storm and then you have a certain timeline and a certain destination point that you're not aware of that date that you're going to find out about this information. And then you do, and you're like, wow, thank goodness that I outlasted that. I did not sign a contract. I didn't enter into that stage of life. And I could have easily done the same too. I found MGTOW, I was about 22, but yeah, there was one relationship before that it could have gone on longer, and it could have been, it could have definitely got me, married or in a situation I didn't want to be in. I'm just lucky to be on the other side of it. And that's what I felt convicted about sharing, was like, I got to make some content at least to be like, maybe there is a guy that might hear my video and it's going to keep him out of a bad situation.
Exactly. And if somebody, a guy wants to make that decision, still go get married and still have kids and all that, that's fine. The whole thing with me is I want men to understand what they're getting into before they get into it. That's kind of the way I would put it.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, like, I never, even in my videos, I would feel like almost bad if I were to be like, marriage absolutely should never exist, and you cannot get married, and I'm going to disown you if I find out that you are. I don't take that. It's like, I don't take that stance at all. It's like, I'd be spitting in the face of my dad, if I did that, or I'd be spitting in the face of, other good fathers that I know have existed and raised good families. I just want to let them know, like, there is no education out there for men about about these things. You're not going to be taught about it, and you're not going to learn it in school. You're not going to learn it most likely from a friend. You might get it from that one crazy uncle that everybody thinks is nuts. That's like the only guy that you might hear this red pill content from, that everybody is like, yeah, he's the cool uncle. That's like the only guy that like society has allowed for men to pick up on that red pill content. And so I just am like, there needs to be more of that than just that uncle out there, because it's really guerrilla warfare. It's guerrilla warfare out there. There's no standardized education for this.
Yeah, exactly. Unfortunately, the message that is taught to young men is the exact fucking opposite of what they probably need to hear. So, and with, again, I've never been married, but from the outside perspective, looking in on it, situation, the biggest problem overall to me that seems to be with marriage is having the state involved, in the process.
Yeah, I think it's at some level you kind of have to be able to figure out who decides what marriage is. And really, in the past, it's been a contract. like it's been handled kind of like a contract. Both sides, both parties have to meet their end of the bargain. And now, because of the family law courts and no fault divorce, it's not like contract law. It's just, you as the man basically sign this paper and the woman kind of rules the relationship. And, any children that you have, she could probably take from you. And it's a lot of people will say, well, I think we should just take the government out of it. But then how do you decide what marriage is in society as well? So you can try to do that and make it more of a religious based decision. But even in the past, the religion has been the government. So, like church institutions or whatever have been sort of the same as the government. There wasn't a separation between church and state. So you kind of have to, if marriage is going to be a thing, somebody has to still decide what it is and what it isn't, but it can't be what it is today for men to have any sort of incentive to be part of it. So it's kind of complicated, I think, as far as how you can resolve that, aside from just getting rid of the family law courts and making it a contract again between two people. That's the way I see it, at least.
Yeah, it's definitely complicated. I mean, it's more than just one thing, but yeah, state stuff. I mean, there's multiple problems.
Yep.
It's a web that you can end up getting lost in. It's not a simple thing. And I think that's what the government's involvement has done for sure. It's that it's also made it almost a pact just before government. And a lot of people are just like, well, what's that as an example to try to live up to something for? I'm not going to, make sure that my marriage stays together for that. And so you're just signing a document and it's really unstable and, the foundation isn't strong and there's really no benefit. And so if there is a benefit, a lot of people are just like, it's easier to stay together than to, have this destructive, break. And so there's a lot of content about that. And I would agree the same. I feel like I'm getting invaded by the government when you invite the government into your house.
Yeah. And however you want to define it, kind of shifting gears a little bit. I mean, all this stuff is what we've been talking about. And then what's going on today is it's all, I see it as related, a lot of, you can look at the police even in a way, depending on how you view it, as government overreach.
Yep.
It's all red pill shit the way I see it. And
well, the media wants to make a lot of this stuff that's going on to be just about race. But if you notice what a lot of the things that are taking place, what is the common theme with what the government's doing? And even like you say, the police and law enforcement. This guy in Minnesota, Floyd, he was, the issue was counterfeit money. The guy in New York that was killed a couple years ago, I think his name was Garner or something like that. The issue, selling illegal cigarettes. That's right.
Yeah.
And then the guy in Missouri had supposedly robbed a convenience store. So the common theme, the last example is a sort of a violent crime, but the common theme is money.
Yeah.
And so people don't want to look at that. They want to look at the racial part of it because that's how the media frames it. But a lot of it is about money. And so it's not surprising that, when you figure out that that's kind of what the government values is protecting its own cash flow and stuff like that, making sure they're getting money from businesses, making sure that, you can't sell no illegal cigarettes and you can't pass off a bill that we didn't print because we're the only ones that can print money. It kind of really all goes together. Like you say, it's all part of the same issue. It's all part of, what is to the advantage of people who have power over everyone else in society. A lot of it comes down to money and those kinds of things, I think.
Yeah, the rabbit hole is never ending. That's for sure.
Yeah, and a lot of it's just the dragon of chaos. Like the mouth eats the tail. Like it's just so interconnected, and it just continues on itself. And like a lot of the problems, especially that the media pushed to the forefront in headlines, there's smoke screens for underlying issues that are actually the root of the problem. Like you said, Dan. It's not. There are so many other things that can be looked at other than just the racial aspect. But the racial aspect is something that the media can trumpet as well. It can get behind that narrative, and it's a
Right.
narrative that people understand, and it's a narrative that's easy to write about. So it's very complicated. I think the MGTOW thought is that, man, it's just so complicated out there, and sometimes I don't know who's right and wrong, so I'm just going to make my life as simple as possible because
Yeah.
that's the easiest way for me to go about my day. Like, that almost ends up being what I say to people, because it's hard for people to disagree with you if you're just like, man, look at the world out there. There are a lot of problems, and I don't want to be about and around a lot of those problems. And so people are like, okay, that's fair. But you'll still find people that are going to go up and shame you and be like, I think you're still scared, though. I think you should, touch the hot stove a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah,
just put your toe in the water there.
To me, though, like what you just said, Hoodie, I mean, that's the simplicity. That's one of the biggest or greatest appeal to me personally with going your own way. Simplify, self-improve, do your thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's fun. I mean, you actually have the freedom of thought to kind of do what really is enjoyable to you, and just how few people actually have the ability to do that today. You look around in the rat race, and speaking of a lot of the married men out there that get into a situation that they don't want to be in, and they end up having their head spin, it's because they really don't even have time for themselves to pursue something that they like doing in their life, and that's really one of the biggest problems and one of the biggest mental health issues, I think, for a lot of men too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So
What?
it's
Hoodie, was that guy that was wanting to do streams with you, or that you
mm-hmm.
is that somebody you work with, or?
So it's funny. It's actually, so I have quite a few interns that I work with each year that are under me. And a lot of them are, guys that are between, 20, 21, 22, that kind of age. And so, so I have a couple funny stories, but he was one of my interns actually. And I don't know how he got on the topic, but I think we were talking about music and certain songs, and I'm like, just talking about the themes and rap music and stuff like that. And he's just like, all these simps out there and all this stuff. And I think we got on a trail off of that. And he was one of my interns, and I was like, all right, man, well, like, I'll talk to you after you get out of this internship, and then, we maybe can do something. And then, so another instance I had last year with an intern of mine, we were working late one day, and I was just rambling, and I was talking like, dude, like, just don't date, like, don't make life complicated for yourself, man. I could tell he was kind of trying to figure some stuff out. And I actually saw him a couple weeks ago, and we were going to hang out, and like the first probably 5 or 10 minutes of us hanging out, he was like, yeah, so I mean, I know what you said in the past, but I have a girlfriend now. And it was like, it was funny. I was like, man, I'm like almost like preaching to these guys about MGTOW. It's like,
Yeah.
I gotta watch myself almost. He was like
Was
apologizing that he had a girlfriend. He doesn't even know I'm like in MGTOW.
Yeah.
Was he frustrated, or was he like probably like just for example, like was he like maybe like somebody like me when I was younger, where he didn't feel complete without having a girlfriend or being comfortable in his own skin?
I think in one of those situations with one of those two guys, one of them, he had just gotten out of a relationship, and he was beginning to finally see some things, and he's kind of been in and out of that relationship, and I think he's just kind of fed up. The other guy that's now dating, he wasn't really fed up, and he wasn't really like, I'm incomplete without one, but he's definitely a guy that's like, I do for sure want to have a family and kids, but
Yeah.
I do understand the issues out there. I don't know what to do. Yeah. So it's like the guy that's in between where he's like, I know set in stone that I'm not going to go without having a wife and kids at some point in my life, but I understand your red pill points about why I should be cautious, but I'm going to do it anyway. It's like that kind of mentality.
What we used to call
Yeah.
purple pill, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. And so neither that guy in that instance, he's a good dude. He's definitely no Chad or Brad. Like he's just, kind of your typical guy, he's a nice guy. And I kind of was a little bit more vocal with him because he is such a nice guy that I could see him getting just trampled by, a narc, like just a malignant narc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He'll come back.
So, yeah, exactly. And it's like, I've been there, man. Like it's not pleasant. It's
well, unfortunately, some people only learn the hard way too. So
yes, that's very true.
I mean, I'm not saying there's things I've had to learn the hard way. So.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there definitely comes to a certain line where I needed to just be in a relationship and go through some certain things to actually understand some of these concepts to another level. There's like a certain level where I could see hypergamy. Let's say pre-relationship Hoodie, I would see hypergamy and I'd be like, yeah, I mean, that's why that high school quarterback gets the girl, or, that's why Tony Stark is, like that stuff. But then there's another level where you go through it and you're like, yep, that I see it everywhere. It's like,
yeah. There's been a thing since like basically the start of MGTOW as a philosophy called the MGTOW level system. And it's what it reflects is kind of like how far you're willing to go, like the highest level MGTOW supposedly. And this relates to some of, what Reverend20piece has talked about with like monks versus guys that still want to date and have girlfriends and stuff. The whole old MGTOW level system was based on that. It was based on the idea of, you could be purple pill, and that's like the outer, like the first layer of MGTOW, and then you move on from there. And what I wish that it involved instead was sort of what we're talking about here, that it's more about your level of knowledge and awareness than what you choose to do with that knowledge for yourself. So that's kind of like, you sort of had some, you have some red pill knowledge out there, even for people that have never heard of MGTOW and never heard of any of the stuff that we talk about online and whatnot, because they basically just to figure it out for themselves to some extent. And then they end up finding the community and they end up finding certain content, and then they increase their knowledge and their awareness as a result of that. So it's kind of interesting how that can progress from, there's a lot of guys who come on to, YouTube and whatnot and talk about, hey, I didn't know what MGTOW was when I was younger, but I still knew some of these concepts. I was MGTOW before MGTOW was even a thing on the internet. And then from that point, they share with other men and kind of increase their knowledge base. And that kind of reminds me of what you're talking about, Hoodie, is that you sort of know to some extent what's going on. Like you kind of know the matrix exists, but you don't know what the nature of it is. And then you figure it out as you discover content and as you talk about things with other men online and in real life to some extent.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of how it is for a lot of guys that I end up talking to that are in their 50s or 60s or 70s even. They will shoot me an email and they'll be like, Hoodie, what's up? I know you're a young whippersnapper, but I knew about this one. I was like back in, I was 17. I've been living this life for 53 years now, and it's more power to you. I'm riding around in my Corvette these days and doing that stuff and going my own way. And it's like, yeah, I mean, so does it does it count? Are you MGTOW if you don't know about MGTOW, but you're going to a course? It's just like it's not everybody's going to find this thing because, I've talked about this in videos where it's like people ask me, why isn't MGTOW bigger? The ones that really understand it and, get the principles and everything and for whatever you have them. I'm like, at the end of the day, this is something that in an acronym sense has only existed on YouTube, or at least it started on YouTube, and it's on a few websites. That is like a pinprick of the size of what's out there, you know?
It's kind of like an iceberg effect almost, where you see what's above the surface, but then there's a lot of it that, you know, you don't see directly, but it's still influencing men's behavior. And all you have to do is kind of synthesize. Like if you already have the ability to kind of like think critically to some extent, all you have to do is kind of synthesize everything that's going on around you. Like you see women behaving a certain way. You see what relatives or friends might go through in the family law courts. You see just a variety of different things, false accusations that can be made against men. And you just put it all together, and it's like, you may never heard of MGTOW as an acronym or as a concept, but it's like, you see what's going on around you, and it's like, I don't want to really have anything to do with that. That's not in my interest. And so I think that that's a lot of what's going on. And it's one of the most hopeful things about MGTOW and the manosphere, because kind of no matter what happens and whether MGTOW becomes mainstream, like Stardust and others have said, I doubt it that it ever will. But these concepts can still be learned without MGTOW becoming mainstream. Like you're still going to have a core of men that just choose to opt out of marriage, and they choose to opt out of putting themselves in vulnerable positions with women. And they realize, well, wait a second. Another example of this is they may realize, well, women don't live up to any sort of gendered expectations. There's no gender roles that women are supposed to engage in, but yet we're still going to be measured by how successful we are, whether we make enough money, and what our social status is. It's like, you don't need to have heard of MGTOW to realize that's a bad deal, and that it doesn't really help you to participate. So that is one of the most hopeful, I think, promising things with MGTOW is it doesn't have to blow up and become mainstream for mainstream guys to start to understand these kinds of ideas and concepts.
Yeah, well, and there's actually excellent point, Dan. And there's quite a few channels out there on YouTube that are pretty big, and they don't call themselves MGTOW or claim MGTOW or are involved with the community, but they talk about MGTOW shit and red pill shit. Like one of them is It's a Gundam. That's a pretty good channel. And then a guy called Birdman. He's on Twitter and he makes YouTube, but they talk about red pill and MGTOW shit all the time, but they just don't call it that.
Right.
Yep.
So that's been a positive observation of mine that I've seen, development.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was trying to get to earlier. I was like, these guys don't say they're MGTOW, but so much of this information is what you would see on a MGTOW labeled video. So I considered it MGTOW, and it's like, it's kind of just like a jumbled pile where a lot of guys will have their eyes opened. And it goes back to this situation. Now this term simp, for example, is like a mainstream term. You know, like it used to be something that, would be used and thrown around here and there. You might find it on Urban Dictionary back in 2017, but it was like, we would use it a lot in MGTOW, and now everybody uses it. You have the whole like simp meme. Yeah, the simp meme. I'm like, wow, this is exploded. And so it's continuing to kind of penetrate a little bit. There's this other channel that was really popular. I don't know if it was a YouTube channel or a Twitter account. It was called DJ Academics, and he basically would, he did different stunts. Like I think one time he went up to a girl and was like, "Hey, can I, take you on a date or whatnot?" And and she was like, "No, I'm okay." And then like he went to the parking lot, got his Corvette, drove by her, and was like, "Hey, you still want to go on a date with me?" And she's like, "Yeah, I think I'll go." And it's like, he does little skits like this. And so it's like, that's MGTOW. That's a MGTOW video too, but it's not labeled it. So it's going to continue to grow. I just think the main benefit for people finding MGTOW in particular is that there's a community of guys, and it really validates what you've been seeing. It makes you be like, okay, I can breathe a little bit deeper now. I can go my own way. I don't have to worry about just conforming.
Exactly. Yeah, another guy too. You may or may not have seen him, but Paul Joseph Watson is another guy. He talks about MGTOW shit. I mean, he's got a huge channel on YouTube. He did a whole video about simps, but and like you said, how it's going mainstream.
Right. I'm just like, people throw around the simp word all the time, and I'm like, what you know about simps. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
it's like you know, where'd you hear that? Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
you know, and it's interesting to be a lurker. So that's basically what we are a lot of times. Is as a MGTOW, you're pretty much a lurker, because like I was talking to Thailand Dan earlier. When I first talked to him, people were reaching out to him and they were like, and Dan was like, "Hey man, you print T-shirts. Can you put like MGTOW is the way to go?" And I'll like put it on the back of my T-shirt and like wear it around and everything. And the guy's basically like, Dan, you know, I'd watch out there. Like, you're gonna be a target now, son. Like, you know, so it's like what we end up being are just kind of lurkers. Like, we all know we're MGTOW, but we're just kind of observing things. We're just like, I really feel like I have an alter ego, to be honest. Like in real life, if certain people were to listen to my videos that know me on a day to day, they'd be like, wait, is this the same person?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, you actually believe this stuff? I can't believe I was your friend. Yeah, it's like,
Well,
yeah, I do.
I mean, I know what you're saying, though. I mean, like, I don't freely talk about these concepts at work unless somebody brings it up. You know, I in a way, I do walk on eggshells, so to speak, but I kind of muzzle myself, but in the workplace. But I mean, I guess in any job, you can't just say what the fuck you want. But unless somebody, like I was saying, unless somebody brings it up, I don't really get into red pill shit. But if they want to engage me, you know, I'll let them know my opinion.
Yeah, that's how I take it too. Like, I'm not going out there drinking out of my custom-made MGTOW coffee cup at work, like doing that type of thing. Like,
Get a sunrise
definitely. Yeah, it's like I got my sunrise hoodie on, like all this stuff. Like, that's definitely not a real thing for sure. I don't have enough FU money for that, but unfortunately, but no, but I will bring it up, and if they talk about it, you know, I'll find time and be like, you know, listen, I'll try to point them in a direction of certain information that they should probably consume, and it might not even be MGTOW stuff. It might just, you know, be you know, more kind of red pill, for the lack of better word, content. You know, but it's the ghosting in plain sight mentality. You know, it's just you go along to get along, and a lot of people don't really understand your process. Like, there a couple times people are like, "Oh, I'm gonna set Hoodie up with this chick at work," and it turns out that I'm like, I'll end up saying no or something, and people are just like, "Wait, like, is this dude gay? Like, I don't understand."
He must
you
be
know,
gay.
it's just like, yeah, we got him cornered. Yeah, it's just like, it's just so funny.
It's ridiculous, but you'll encounter that sometimes. It's just like, let people think whatever.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That is the tricky part, because people, I mean, maybe not tricky, but that is an interesting aspect to it, because a lot of people do assume that oh, well, he must not like women because he doesn't have a girlfriend, you know. But whatever, you know.
Yeah, it's like, oh, he probably has, like, you know, he's just has no confidence, or he doesn't have enough money to really, you know, take her to the Cheesecake Factory, you know, and all that nonsense, you know. So it's just like, so it's like, yeah, you're right. I just, you know, I've got a Nokia flip phone still. I'm using Cricket. Like, you know, I just can't afford her. You know, that's just to write it off like that. Sounds good.
Let them think that. Yeah. I mean, who cares?
Yeah, it's fun. Right. Exactly. It's all it's kind of funny.
Yeah, I kind of assume that unless someone shows the initiative and starts, you know, talking about how, you know, they don't see the point in dating, or they basically they express some sort of knowledge about red pill topics. Like, I just assume that they don't know about those things, and it's probably better to not go into that with people unless they really already show that they have some sort of foundation for listening and learning about those kinds of things. Because the average person out there, even the average guy to a large extent, you know, you might be able to talk to them about like something very basic, like feminism not really being about equality, but you even have to be careful about that kind of stuff depending on the environment and who you're talking to. So I just kind of assume that any given person doesn't really like, they're not necessarily susceptible to that unless they show some sort of initiative or show some sort of a propensity to talk about those kinds of things. I don't know. This may be an odd comparison, Hoodie, but it's almost like with religion and Bible thumping. It's like people are going to be turned off if you start talking about how, this is what you believe and other people need to believe in this too. People have to kind of show an initiative to want to learn about those kinds of things, I think, in a similar manner. Like, no matter what it is, if someone doesn't want to be a part of that or they don't show that initiative, you don't really just start going into that, because that can get you in trouble in a few different ways. And they're probably not going to be willing to listen to you anyway, unless they have that kind of pre-initiative to do that.
Oh, absolutely. It's almost the same, and it's nothing that's going to turn people be more of a turn off to people than just leading with the Bible thumping, and yeah. I think of and what you said, I think of the verse that came to my mind was like, don't throw pearls before swine. They're just going to trample on them. What are they going to do with it? What is a pig going to do with the pearls that you're giving it? Nothing. Why would you give your pearls of wisdom? Yeah, they're just gonna eat it or play with it or just abuse it, not use it what it was for. So you just wasted it. So why are you doing that? And you kind of have to just be patient with people, and you just got to be around them and live how you live, and maybe they'll ask you something.
Right.
It's really almost along the same lines, and it all goes down to the ghosting in plain sight mentality too. It's a lot of strategy. A lot of it is strategy and being patient and playing the waiting game. And a lot of times the only way to win the game is to not play it, and to not engage, and engage if you need to.
Yeah, I was wondering if you ever noticed a parallel between those two things, because it's kind of similar concepts that just apply to different topics. But I've noticed that as well. It's like, it's kind of the same mentality involved, both with, if you have a certain belief system or a certain, religious way of looking at things versus what we call red pill knowledge. It's like either way, I think people have to show that they're willing to listen before you can really have that type of conversation with people.
Yeah, I watch quite a bit of apologetics content, which is just like argumentation within Christianity, and people having, debates and, Islam versus Christianity are, debates and whatnot, scholarly settings, non-scholarly settings, and stuff like that. And they emphasize, if somebody asks you, or you just meeting somebody on a plane and you have a couple hours with them, if they ask you a question, maybe ask them a question, learn about them. Don't believe that what you have to say and being aggressive with it is going to make them change or make them believe. It's probably going to do the exact opposite. And so I have found it in both situations for sure, and definitely in MGTOW as well, because nothing is more of a turnoff to people when you're like, oh, I'm better than you. I'm going my own way. And not only am I going my own way, like I am a monk and I don't need a woman for all these reasons. Like you're gonna get laughed at from men and women. Like,
well, especially by mainstream blue pill people, you will be for sure.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, and that's like I said. I'm not going to rehash the whole monk thing I was talking about, but anybody who's interested in my opinion on search my channel. But and I'm not dating anybody now. I haven't dated any chicks in over a year. And when I do, it's really, I keep it simple. It's not anything serious, and I'd let them know that from the beginning. But at the at the same time, I don't know if y'all are familiar with Ronin Man or not, but I like Ronin Man. He's still one of the philosophical channels out there, and
I'll have to check him out.
Yeah, I like his stuff. They're all really long videos, but they're interesting. Like I said, he comes at it from a psychological and philosophical perspective, but he has stated in his videos, 50% of the world is women, humans, and you can try and just distance yourself and shut women out completely, but you know, when we're done with the stream, I'm going to go to the store. I'm going to go grocery shop, and I'm going to encounter women. I still got to deal with women in some capacity, you know. So it's navigating the waters and how I deal with life, you know. So.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
you know, I was
great,
a little bit.
Great
Oh,
point.
go ahead. Go ahead, Hoodie.
No, you're good. Yeah, you're good, Ann.
I just wanted to say I was a little bit surprised that you had, you know, not a huge amount of negative feedback, but some with those monk videos, because I think everything that you were saying had a legitimate basis. Like, and I think it just goes back to no matter what sort of group or category you're looking at, no matter what sort of person you're looking at, there's always sort of a risk of being egotistical and thinking that you're better than everybody else because of whatever that you do. So, you know, I don't think that affects MGTOW men necessarily as much as other men, but it can. And you see that sometimes with the whole controversies and sort of kind of like drama within the community and whatnot. A lot of it is ego based more than anything else. But, you know, the thing about it is sometimes monks will say, this is just what I've noticed. They'll say that they are basically reducing their risk with women to zero. But like with what you're saying, unless you're completely isolating yourself from society as much as possible, your risk isn't going to be zero. I remember a John the Other video. I don't know if you guys watch his stuff. He doesn't make a whole lot of content anymore, where he talked about how the laws are getting so bad in some places, and he's out of Canada, and I think a lot of the laws there, as far as it pertains to men and women, they're getting worse for men all the time. And he talked about how the only thing that really prevents a woman from meeting you in the street when you're alone and saying something like, hey, either you are going to give me all your money or I'll tell people that you abused me or that you did some sort of, you know, sexual thing, you know, you harassed me or assaulted me in that way. Either give me all your money or I'll make a false claim against you. John the Other mentioned that the only thing that really stops women from doing that is inconvenience in some places. Like they have an easier way to get money and resources than by doing that, but they could conceivably do that and pull it off. So even if you're a monk who it's like you have no female friends, you don't deal with the women in your family anymore, which I would say a lot of the monks still do, you know, have female friends. They have women that they deal with on some basis. You could have a situation where a woman thinks that, you know, you're easy prey for some reason and you're alone in the street and she says, hey, you know, you're going to give me your money or I'll make a false accusation against you. Like as things continue to get worse for men in society, those kinds of things become more plausible. So your risk is still not zero, even if you're a monk and you don't deal with women in your life, you avoid women almost as much as possible. Like there's still some sort of risk with women, I would argue, making an accusation against you if they think they can get away with it and it's to their advantage. So, you know, it's more of a question of how much risk are you willing to take based on what you want to do in life, going down your own path, than it is saying, well, we're going to reduce the risk to zero. I think that that's kind of false, a false argument. I think it's on the basis of, well, I'm reducing my risk to almost zero by being a monk. And it's like, not really. I don't necessarily agree that that's being accomplished through that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I'm in that same kind of train of thought too. I deal with women on a daily basis. I work with probably half of my coworkers are women. I'm often supervising women, multiple different positions and jobs, and I have no choice. You know, I have to, you know, have that as a part of my life. And honestly, I don't really mind it. Yeah, I think a lot of situations end up being more complicated because I'm not just dealing with the man. He's not just being cut and dry with me. Like sometimes it can be drawn out, but for the most part, you know, if you're careful, if you do your work well, things can go along smoothly. I still talk to the women in my family. You know, I think any problems that come up might just be related to that individual family per se, you know? And so, you know, that's something that I would never just say, I need to write them off completely. I don't even know how it's possible. I mean, other than if I was, you know, had an infinite supply of food and I could live in a sailboat and, you know, like, yeah.
Yeah, that, or, you know, move to the middle of nowhere and you're completely 100% self-sufficient. You got a farm and livestock.
Right. That's basically what it would take.
Yeah.
Something along those lines. And there are maybe a few guys that do that, and that's good. You know, it's like you're basically if you can do that, you're reducing your risk to almost zero. But otherwise, you know, like I say, there's always a risk from just a random encounter that if you say the wrong thing to a woman and she doesn't like it or whatever, it could be she makes an accusation against you and you can't prove that it's false. So now your reputation's ruined. Like that could happen even if you are totally monk trying to avoid women as much as you can. It's like the chance is a lot lower, but the risk is still going to be there because of the power that women have over, you know, in their relationships or in their interactions with men today. They have so much power in some places that your risk is still not going to be zero, and you still have to be cognizant of what's going on around you, I think, and make the best decisions for yourself, you know, whether you choose to still, you know, have short-term relationships with women or whether you still want to have sexual interactions with women. It's like the risk is higher doing that for sure, but it's still not zero. I think even if you don't do those things, unless you completely separate yourself from, you know, womankind as a whole, that's basically what I think it takes.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. You'd have to be in that type of situation. You would have to be completely self-sufficient, and you do reduce your risk of problems. But even like any of us, we talk about MGTOW concepts every day or often, and we know guys that are in it, and we can converse about it, and we know what to look out for. But like anything, we know that sharks are bad, but it doesn't mean that you're disqualified from getting a shark bite when you go in the water. I mean, like,
Yeah.
and you do what you need to avoid it, but it still can happen. You know, it's just a measure of how much risk is involved. That's all it is.
Right.
Exactly. But, you know, at the end of the day, all three of us on this panel pretty much have we've received the knowledge, and people like the people in the chat, you know, if you've gotten the message, you know, at some point you got to make your own decisions and live your life the way you want to live it, you know? So, and that's kind of the way I view it. You know, I don't try and preach to people and tell them the way I live is the right way, but I just kind of live by example. And if you want to follow that example, great. If you don't, that's fine too. Or you want to take it further down the road and be completely monk, that's cool too. And like I said, I'm fine with the monks, and I got friends who are MGTOW monks, and we're good. But we all got choices to make, you know.
Yep. And I think honestly, for someone to like really listen, it would almost take like, you know, a professional quarterback or like an Elon Musk, and he gets interviewed and he's like, I don't understand how you're able to run SpaceX and Tesla and, you know, and Neuralink and the Boring Company. You know, how do you do all this stuff? And he's like, I am MGTOW. You know, it's like that's like like that's kind of what would need to happen for it to be received and people to consider it, I feel like. And so it's almost like I'm just a normal guy. You know, I'm at the end of the day, I'm just a normal guy like everybody else. And for me to impart this is the exact way to do it, the proof is not even necessarily in the pudding. So why would they believe me? You know, so there are some benefits, but it's not like it's a panacea to them. So,
exactly. But looks like that might be a good spot to end it for today.
That was good.
Yeah, we're creeping up on that 2 hour mark. So.
Yep.
But yeah, definitely, Dan. I appreciate you hosting this, man. This was a good chat. So, Hoodie,
I think so.
I appreciate it. Likewise.
Definitely had to do something else in the future. I know we had a good run there for a while with some of the red pill recharges on Hoodie's channel. So a lot of interesting guests and some people who made content and no longer make content. So those are always cool to look back on. So. Blind man, his stuff's gone, and then CL, CL. he don't keep his videos up, so hardly anybody knows about old George anymore. But
Yeah, I miss those videos too. So I don't even know what he's talking about when he mentions that. But
yeah.
That's
Maybe we can get
hilarious.
him on here sometime. Yeah, he had a bunch of cool. CL's got great fucking life stories, and that
yeah,
I know why he took him down, because I from what I recall, it was because of some people had discovered his channel that he knew in real life, and we're giving him shit about it. So that's the way I understand why he took him down, and I get that.
I think that's right. I think that's right. Yeah.
But at the same time, that goes back to like what we were talking earlier with. It's just a damn shame when we lose content, because it's good stuff. But
Yeah,
anyway,
that's really funny to think about, the old George. But we'll have to link up with him, and then when I get my own guy, I'd like to have my own laptop to look at. I don't want to use my work one; that'll get me into trouble.
That's understandable.
I'll be sure to try. I'll be sure to try to host you guys. So.
Okay, right on. But yeah, you guys have a good rest of your weekend, and I appreciate it again. And everybody in the chat, good seeing you. And appreciate you guys too. And I'll catch up with y'all later.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Good to talk to you guys.
Take care.
Thanks,
See you,
Rev.
Dan.
Bye.
Yep. Well, that was a good chat. Hope that everybody got something out of it. Hope that even though we, of course, disagree on a few issues, that you guys enjoyed the conversation and the chat, and that hopefully this ends up being viewed later on as well. But thank you guys for participating. Have a good one.